month. This month globally is also Mental Health Month. There are other diseases that awareness is created about. At Icmfel, we're joining the global mental health awareness to talk about mental health this month as well. So, what is mental health? So, mental health generally, what I may term mental disorder, is it involve the significant disturbance, either with your thinking, in emotions, regulations, or behavior. And so, any disturbance in your thinking, in your emotions, and behavior is considered a mental disorder, or what we term as mental health disease. And so, according to WHO fact sheets, 1 out of every 8 people in the world live with some kind of mental disorder. 1 out of every 8% has some kind of disorder. So there may be different levels of disturbance or disorder, but yes, so it is a concern, and it's severe because there are different types of mental health disorder that actually lead to death, and many people die from it if it is not identified early and treated. And most of the mental health disorder that people die from is really because people do not access the available treatment for it. But yes, there are effective prevention and treatment options for mental disorder. Like I said, there are many different types of mental disorder, but there are effective treatments and preventions that are available. But the problem is that many people do not access these available treatments or preventions ideas. So this month we're joining the global health community to create awareness about mental health, so that people can be able to understand what is mental health and how can they prevent that. In this busy world where everyone just running with the advancement in technology, with the level of business, mental health issues is one of the critical things that is killing people silently. So I'm going to give a basic kind of the different types and what are the available statistics as to how many people are suffering from these kind of different category of mental disorder. My colleagues will be joining me to talk about the signs and symptoms, the prevention, the treatment options that are available in details. But I'm just giving the general and also the available statistics according to WHO. And so one of the major type of mental disorder is anxiety disorder. And according to the WHO, you have about 301 billion people as of 2019 that suffer from anxiety disorder. 301 million. And out of the 301 million people that suffer from anxiety disorder, you have about 50 millions that are children and adolescents. The next step of mental disorder that comes second to anxiety disorder is depression. Oh yes, about 280 million people, according to the statistics in 2019, 280 million people suffer from depression. And out of that 280 million, you have about 23 millions that are children and adolescents. So depression is a major mental disorder and mental health issues that sometimes we just overlook, but yes, it's very severe and people die from it. A lot of people die from it. Like I said, later my colleagues will be talking about the signs and symptoms, preventions, and treatment. I'm just giving the general overview and the epidemiology, I mean the available statistics showing how serious these mental disorder issues are. And then we get also what we call bipolar disorder. And so bipolar disorder is where the person have a swinging mode between depression and manic. So certain that you behave like a depressed person, and then certain time they behave like overexcited, over talking or overdoing things, everything, and certain times they are very depressed. So you have that bipolar disorder, and so you see the same person um, this week they are very quiet and maybe even just completely depressed, right? And the next week you find them all active, all talking, all doing everything, right? So you have that bipolar disorder. You have about 40 million people, according to the 2019 statistics. 40 million people suffer from bipolar disorder. We also have post-traumatic stress disorder. Is a form of mental disorder as well. That comes from people who experience war or traumatic experience, like the accident or very terrible thing, and they continue to have the picture of that trauma, and like they are re-experiencing that particular trauma issue. It's a mental health disorder as well. So another one is schizophrenia. You have about 24 million people suffering from schizophrenia, and one in every 300 people also experience that. We also have what we call eating disorder. Oh yes, eating disorder is a mental health issue, right? And so there are two types of eating disorder. We have the anorexia nervosa and the bulimia nervosa. So most often the anorexia nervosa eating disorder, these are actually deals with dieting issue. People who overeat and like they can control that addiction, should I call it addiction, or that urge for food, and overeat. It affects their physical health. Some become obese, some becomes a high risk of many medical complications. They definitely die or get critically ill because of their lack of the ability to control that eating urge. Their bad habit of eating leads to complicated medical conditions that could kill them very early before their time. Bulimia, these are people who also get addicted to their urge for drugs. Alcohol becomes very bad that they can control that and also destroy them. So you have about 14 million people suffering from eating disorder. And out of the 14 million, you have about 3 million that are children and adolescents. We also have what a disruptive behavior disorder, or disruptive behavior dissocial disorder. That actually has to do with the short term for it is called conduct disorder. Oh yes, there are people who are just uncontrollably defying, like completely disobedient, like they can't control themselves to be able to be humble or control that ability to listen and humble themselves. Yes, it's actually a disorder. If you are over persistently defying and disobedient, it is a mental disorder. And you have about 40 million people, according to 2019 WHO statistics, 40 million people suffering from conduct disorder. And then the last one I'm going to mention is the neurodevelopmental disorder. So this one is a congenital disorder where children are born with these abnormality that affects their thinking, their different connected development, their mental development, and that becomes a problem for them, like ADHD, ASD, osteoarthritis. So you have this congenital disorder that affects the development of their brain, their thinking, their ability to also behave well. So that can affect them. That is more congenital. That fall under the neurodevelopmental disorder. Thank you. My colleagues will be coming on to talk about the some of the causes and some of the symptoms, preventions, and treatment options. We hope that our video this month will be a blessing to you and you'll be able to pick up some of the lessons we'll be sharing as we talk about mental health this month. See you and God bless you.
Hi there, my name is Dr. Victoria Maniela and I am a member of the Icmfel International Christian Mental Fellowship. And today we are here to talk about the mental health awareness, as this month is all about bringing and raising awareness to mental health. So I hope with this video and other videos out there during this month that we can be able to reduce the stigma around mental health awareness, disorders, and we can get people treated and they can get back to their better selves, because this is a disease, a condition, just like any other condition that the body might have. And we hope that with this video and with these materials that you guys will be able to educate yourselves, educate others around you, and let's all get treated and become the best versions of ourselves. So let's get started. So I'm here to talk about the symptoms of mental health awareness, which actually mental health is not just one disease or one disorder. It encompasses a lot of different kinds of disorders. So I'm here to try to break it down as simple as I can. But if you guys do want a little bit more detailed video, or you want to know a little bit more about these diseases, please leave a comment below and my team and I will try to find a way to get this information out there for you. So let's get started. So I have grouped mental health awareness or mental health conditions into 4 groups. Actually, that's the most common classification that's out there. So we have 1, mood disorders, anxiety disorders, personality disorders, and psychotic disorders. So I will try my best to try to detail all the kinds of disorders in each category, and I'll try to give out the symptoms as much as I can. I have my notes here just in case I go off script, because I'm not a psychiatrist, but I will do my best to get the information out there for you guys. So let's start. So mood disorders. Mood disorders, we have the most common ones that we know are bipolar, major depression. There's also postpartum disorders. There's also something we call cyclothymic disorders. Also, we have seasonal disorders. Actually, bipolar actually has 2 types. There's bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. And then we also have disruptive mood disorders and etc. I think the most common ones are MDD, which is depression, and bipolar, and also mania. So I am going to list out some of these symptoms actually for depression, and the most common one is mania. So for depression, we have a mnemonic. It's actually called SIG-E-CAPS, and I'm going to read it out to you guys so you guys remember. So SIG-E-CAPS: depressed mood, sleep disturbance, loss of interest or anhedonia, guilt or feelings of worthlessness, energy loss, fatigue, they can't concentrate, they have appetite or weight changes, psychomotor retardation or agitation, and suicidal ideation. And now for mania, we have dig fast. So they get easily distracted, they're impulsive, they always want to have something like in like a really quick grandiosity. They have an inflated self-esteem, flight of ideas, or we call that racing thoughts. They have an increased goal-directed activity or agitation. They have a little decreased need for sleep, and very talkative or have a pressured speech. So those are some symptoms of some of the most common mood disorders. But again, if you want more details, do leave a comment in the comment section below and we'll get back to you. So next one we have, also peripartum mood disorders has also been included into this category as well. So moving on, anxiety disorders. Anxiety, you might actually be like, oh, but isn't it normal to have an anxiety or to be fearful or to be scared of something? But when this fear starts to interrupt with your normal activity or normal daily functioning is when it becomes an anxiety disorder. For example, if you're so scared of going outside, of seeing somebody to the point they home, you don't go to work, don't go to school, we call that a anxiety disorder. So what are the types? We have panic attacks, phobias, OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, GAD, generalized anxiety disorder. We also have PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, and the one that is less than 1 month is called acute stress disorder, or ASD. And also we have others like kleptomanias. Kleptomania is when somebody has an urge to steal. So they're very anxious when they don't, like they just really have an urge to steal, and when they do steal something, they feel better. So that anxiety in them to steal, that urge, is what we call kleptomania. There's also agoraphobia, where they're scared of a specific situation. It could be scared of crowds, being in the train, being in an elevator, in squished places, as you know, claustrophobia, and etc. There's also trichotillomania, where they pull their hair all the time to relieve stress, and some people can even eat their hair, and they end up having balls of hair in their stomachs. And also we have body dysmorphia, which is also included in anxiety disorders. So you can think of anything that could be something that makes you so anxious to the point where you just can't function well. You can't go back to your normal daily routine. Is what we call anxiety disorders. So let's continue. The next one is personality disorders. So for those of you who like watching crime movies, FBI, Law and Order, and etc., CSI and all that, I think you've seen these kind of disorders a lot in those movies. So personality disorders are divided into 3 groups, 3 clusters, cluster A, B, and C. So in cluster A, we have paranoid personality disorder, schizoid, and schizotypal. Remember, schizoid, schizotypal, I'm not referring to schizophrenia. We'll see that later in psychotic disorders. But schizoid and schizotypal are those who have they have weird beliefs, they have awkward imaginations, or we call them magical thinking. They're weird, aloof. So that's what you have. And then paranoid, you're very paranoid of people, of things, but remember, to the point where it interferes with your normal daily living function. Okay, cluster B is where we have the common ones, antisocial, or as we'll call them, the sociopaths, the crazy people, etc. We don't use that term anymore, okay? Borderline is where they have extremes of. So borderline is it's people are either good or bad. There's no in between them. Then we have histrionic. Histrionic are people who like to use extreme emotions, or flirtatious, to get what they want and what they need from people. And then we have narcissistic personality disorder. Narcissists, they have an overinflated, grandiose image about themselves, nobody matters but them. So I think you guys can get a picture of narcissistic disorder. And the last one is avoidant personality disorder, dependent personality disorder, and obsessive compulsive personality disorder, OCPD. This is different from OCD that we saw in anxiety disorder. Okay, so avoidant, as the word says, they're to avoid people, certain things, situations, to the point where it does interfere with the normal living function. And then dependent personality disorder are those who they're very dependent on someone in their life. They can't do anything without asking someone for help. They can't go to the store without asking someone. They can't do something on their own. So sadly, most people with this personality disorder usually end up in abusive relationships because they really depend on the person, even if they're abusing them to the point where they really can't go. So this is why we really want to bring awareness to all these disorders, because people really need to get the help that they can so they can get to their best self. And the last group we have here is psychotic disorders. So psychotic disorders is where we have the most common one, which is schizophrenia, of course, but there's also other kinds of as well. I'm going to name them now. We have one called schizoaffective disorder. This is where you have actually symptoms of both schizophrenia and a mood disorder. Remember, we said in mood disorders we have mania, bipolar, depression, and etc. So you have a little bit of both. And then we have delusional disorders. So you know how we always have to call our friends, oh, you're delusional, you think too much. But then with this one, it's to the point, like I said, where it interferes with their normal living function. They have a delusion that really makes no sense. Someone can just wake up one day and tell you, okay, I'm the president of Antarctica, or I own a ship in the Sahara Desert. So these are delusions that don't really make sense to the norm. But then, as we said, we're here to raise awareness so we can get people the treatment that they need. And then we have something that's called schizotypal. So schizotypal it also kind of falls in the cluster A, but then it also does fall on the schizophrenia side as well. So back to schizophrenia. In schizophrenia, we have a little bit of a timeline. So a brief psychotic disorder is usually less than a month. Yeah. And then schizophreniform disorder is from 1 month to 6 months, right? Yeah. If it does go more than 6 months, then we can call this schizophrenia. And you might be wondering, so what are the symptoms of schizophrenia? I mean, we all know they have some odd thoughts and this, but actually we describe the symptoms into 2 parts: positive symptoms and negative symptoms. So for negative, we have a flat or blunted affect. They just have poker face on, apathy, anhedonia, alogia, and they're just withdrawn from the society, social withdrawal. They just no emotion. That's what we call the negative symptoms. And then the positive symptoms are like hallucinations, delusions. They have an unusual thought processing, organized speech. They just have bizarre behaviors, like, awkward, but like the point of, I gotta get this person checked to see somebody. And then we have what we call cognitive symptoms, like they have diminished working memories, they're not able to pay attention, and they just have a reduced ability to understand or make plans because of all the voices that they hear inside their heads. So yeah, this was a very quick and rundown review of mental health awareness and the symptoms that are around it. But if you guys really do want a more detailed video, please leave a comment below and we can do. But stay tuned to the next part of the video, and bye-bye, and please help spread the awareness so we can get everybody treated. Take care.
Hello everybody, so my name is Dr. Faustin and I'm going to talk about the causes of mental illness. In fact, we have so many causes of mental illness, and I'm just going to summarize it into 6. And the first one I would say is the environmental cause. The environment where we live can cause pressure for us. Let's say a job, the family, financial difficulty, and all those stuff. When you put it together, it can cause some people to actually develop mental illness. And the second one is the lifestyle. Lifestyle is really important, because if we are living in a life where we do not care, we drink too much, we smoke, we take drugs and all those stuff, those actually can lead somebody depression, schizophrenia, any type of mental illness, as my colleague has about. And the third one, which is very important, is biology. Biology, like DNA, genes. So there are actually people doing research right now about that to find out more about the reason why a gene can affect mental illness or mental health. And just in a nutshell, I would say, if you know in your first degree relative, let's say your parent, your brother, your sister, or your son, if you just realize that one of them is also having that tendency or has a history of mental illness, then in that case you have to be more watchful about that, and also be more careful about your mental health. And then the next one is abuse, and that's very sad to even talk about it, but it happens. Some people develop mental illness because of history of abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, and all those things, this type of abuse, which we should not take it lightly, because it's very sad. However, as medical practitioner, we actually are addressing this. If you are in that condition, we advise you to go ahead and find somebody to talk to somebody, find a professional to share, and find a solution about your mental wellness. And then there's another one, which is the physical illness or injury. Some people can develop mental illness because they have a chronic disease, because they have chronic disorder, let's say a stroke, a hypertension that is not curable, that you cannot cure with, you cannot decrease the blood pressure and everything. So when you take all that in account, and lastly is the substance abuse. I know I've talked about lifestyle, but then this substance abuse is specific to different. And let's say somebody's abusing too much and they are always being down. Oh man, I need to feel better, but how come I cannot let go of this addiction? All that can cause depression. It's a problem with our brain. And the brain itself has this own way of the chemical can cause our mental being to not be stable. So long story short, mental illness is very real, and we should watch out. If you find yourself, or you know somebody who is within this spectrum of the risk factor and the causes that I just enlisted here, you can go ahead and help them, or you can go ahead and call somebody, a doctor, somebody to talk to. Thank you so much, and stay blessed. Bye bye.
Involved in our social, and also we can keep in touch with our friends. We should learn to keep in touch with our friends, checking up on our friends, making sure they are okay. And people on treatment, on prescribed medication, should continue their medication and report promptly to their health facility as and when they see any signs and symptoms that arises from their medications. We all need to get involved. Bible in Proverbs chapter 24 verse 11 to 12 says, "Rescue the perishing. Don't hesitate to step in to help." Thank you very much. Shalom. Involved